Stuntman is an action driving game that was developed by Reflections Interactive, published by Infogrames and released on the PS2 in June of 2002. Reviews at the time were somewhat average. While many recognised it was quite an innovative driving game, its flaws were hard to ignore even so many years ago. In this game you get to take the role of a, yep, you guessed it, stuntman, and get to experience all of the thrills that come along with the occupation. There isn't a story or any characters to focus on, but the game does offer up a few modes to choose from, most notably the career mode and the construction mode. In the career mode you'll progress from one movie to the next, travelling the globe and performing all sorts of chase scenes and vehicle related stunts, while racing against the clock and aiming for 100% accuracy. As you progress through the career, you'll unlock a number of items and vehicles that you'll use to create your own mayhem. Just think of it as the Tony Hawk Park Creator, but with cars and flaming hoops. But of course the main focus of the game is the career mode, and boy, it is one of the most frustrating gaming experiences I've had in quite some time. So here's how it works. There are 6 films in total, all fairly generic action movies. You've got the gangster flick in London, the Dukes of Hazzard ripoff in Louisiana, and a martial arts movie set in Bangkok, and so on. Each of these movies will have roughly 5 tracks to complete. You'll race around a set or location with icons directing you which way to go, which cars to overtake, which items to smash through, and which ramps to jump over. You'll be racing against the clock, and while you don't have to do everything perfectly, if you miss enough objectives then you won't be able to progress to the next track. On paper this is a pretty cool idea for a game and creates an opportunity for some truly creative tracks and courses, but what plagues all of this is the gameplay. There is something about this driving game that doesn't feel right, and being that this driving game requires you to be pretty damn precise on a regular basis, it becomes a huge problem. The inconsistent sensitivity of the control is what bothered me the most. Sometimes you'll go to turn a corner and your car will feel agile, at other times you'll be holding the analog stick to one side as much as possible and your car feels like it's barely responding. Sometimes you'll be able to brake and come to a complete stop instantly, other times you'll gradually slow down and then sort of crawl until you run out of momentum. Now, although pressure sensitivity on a game controller is old news now, back in 2002 it was kind of novel, and Stuntman relies on this DualShock 2 feature too much in my opinion. Success in this game means getting from A to B as quickly as possible, and this game really wants you to press on that X button as hard as you can to reach top speed. While it may seem like a petty complaint, there are some tracks that left me with an aching hand as I had to hold down the X button for long periods with so much force because falling behind even by a second could mean failure.
God, you wrecked the vehicle!
I understand that the trial and error nature of this game is core to the experience. The game was designed to provide you with challenging tracks that you slowly figure out how to perfect, and although you will eventually adjust to the controls, the real disappointment is that when you do complete a perfect run, it's not quite satisfying enough to justify the half hour spent failing. And trust me, you will fail. Again, and again, and again, and again. And each time you do, you'll get a little bit closer to putting your foot through your TV. I feel like I've said a lot of negative things about this one, so let me throw some positives in so this video doesn't just become a rant. Stuntman looks pretty good. There are some backgrounds off in the distance that look like a fuzzy mess, but if you're talking about the cars and the sets that you're driving through, they are genuinely impressive for a game of its time. I actually like the knockoff movies that you take part in, and there is a good variety of environments, which does give you something to look forward to when you're moving on to the next mission. The different stunts that feature throughout the game can be fun at times. Also, there is a decent amount of destructibility to the cars that makes things look a little more spectacular if you happen to crash at the worst possible time.
Cut! Get another vehicle ready!
There are some interesting cutscenes in between the missions where the fake stuntman explains the mechanics behind the stunt, and it's fun to learn how they pull this stunt off. Finally, when you finish all of the tracks, you do get a nice trailer for the movie that takes the replays from your stunts and mixes it in with pre-rendered cutscenes, which is quite a nice touch. Stuntman is obviously a game that didn't have bucket loads of money behind it, and while that is no excuse when it comes to the gameplay, I don't really feel like I can hold some of its other limitations against it, such as the repetitive soundtrack and regular reuse of assets, but the developer clearly squoze as much content out of it as they could. Possibly the best way to explain Stuntman is to say that it's an average game that over time has become a poor one. While some of its biggest flaws may not have stood out as much in 2002, returning to it today is not recommendable. This was a good idea for a game, but due to its inconsistent controls and physics, it slowly chips away at you and doesn't offer any rewarding gameplay to pull you back in, meaning it's only a matter of time before you give up on it.
Cut, come on, get it right.